I'd like to call this meeting of the Fair Oaks Recreation and Park District to order. If everybody would silence their cell phones, I would appreciate that. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Jennifer, can you do the roll call?
Chair Carhart.
Here.
Vice Chair Tamani. Here. Director Irwin.
Here.
Director Mount.
Here.
Director O'Farrell.
Here.
All present.
We have some presentations, but first I understand there's people here that they want to talk about the disc golf course. So we're going to move a staff report up to the point where we have public comment. So we'll do that in a moment. First, though, we have presentations. Who's going to do those? Chicken Festival follow-up, is it?
It's me. Right. Hello, Board of Directors, all in attendance. Sabrina Bernardo, Recreation Supervisor, oversees the special events of Park District. Here to talk about the Fair Oaks Chicken Festival. Happens September 21st at Fair Oaks Park from 12 to 6. It was our 19th annual Chicken Festival. We had a lot of fun. So just real quickly, as an overview, the festivities at the event included over 80 vendors. We had 8 sponsors. Our largest sponsor this year was the Fair Oaks Arborist. We had a pancake breakfast that started in the morning at the Grange Hall. And they had youth performances, we had giveaways and our info booth, and then Rocky the Rooster was there taking photos. We had food and drink. Our Fair Oaks Youth Advisory Board, which you have a rep here, they did water sales as a fundraiser. And then Sacramento Mobile food trucks, they come out and they do all of our food for the event. They all have a special chicken item for the event. Let's see, the Fair Oaks Rotary Foundation had 2 beer and wine booths, and I think they were very successful. Well, you could chime in on that. We had we had a community kids zone, which was free. So that's that upper softball field. So that consisted of activity booths, a kids stage, petting zoo with chickens and different species, the Wow Bus and coloring wall, and then kids' big business booths. Kids got to showcase stuff that they make and make some money on the side too. We had live music at the main stage. We had Mother Lode Country and Island of Black and White. Chicken Festival merchandise. You can see the image up there of what that looked like this year. And he did sweatshirts and hats and a plethora of other things. We had a cornhole tournament presented by the Chamber of Commerce, Pluck and Pro contest, which is one of the favorite at the events. We had 8 participants, and that's done by the Kiwanis Club. And then we had a great chicken contest, which, as you guys know, is that wooden decorating chicken. And we had 17 entries, which I think is our largest that we've had this year. All right, new and improved. So changes for this year. We moved the stage. So the stage, the last few years at Fair Oaks Park has been on the MP field, direct sun. Not a lot of people go over there. It's a lot of work to move those hay bales, and we just kind of saw people weren't really utilizing it because it was so hot. And those big tents are really, really expensive, and then it makes our fire permit go up higher. So we elected to move the stage kind of in that bowl area. So it ended up swapping with cornhole, which actually was a benefit because cornhole also didn't really like the area that they were in because it wasn't flat enough. So it worked out for both. And huge turnout in the stage area because it was shaded. The seating worked out great, and it just made for a very festival-like feel. So love that change, and we'll keep that to stay there. We also, that lower softball field, if you remember, we introduced that as something new last year as a paid for adventure zone. That's a little bit different than what we did this year. We still did the adventure zone, but instead of having a company come in and run it, we actually ran it ourselves with staff. So we did the ticketing, did the rentals, all that jazz. And then paid parking. So that was a big one. I know we've been talking about that last couple of years on like what that would look like. And we actually had a really great opportunity with Park Mobile to test out kind of like their app and their equipment. And that's something that we're looking at potentially for, parking solutions. And it went really great. We had, I think, 121 prepaid parking spaces, and we utilized that front parking area. So it was great. Nick kind of oversaw that. If you have questions on that, I'm sure Nick could pipe in.
How quickly did that sell out?
It actually sold out the day of the event, the morning of. I think a lot of people were kind of waiting to see if they were going to for sure go to the festival, and they realized, and they went to the website like, oh, we can get parking and pay for it. So it pretty much sold out. I think it was 10 minutes prior to the event starting.
And then financials. Our total like actual cost for the event, so like restrooms, all the stuff we have to buy and purchase, all that stuff. 22,470 and some change. Our staffing was 16,700. Just a note on the staffing cost, that's only the day of and the day before for setup. So we're not capturing, all my time for the year before planning it. We're not capturing all the days that Parks has to do, that we're like gathering all the stuff, but all the other staff are working on things. It's just, those numbers are just really hard to capture. So we're only looking at setup day and the day of the event. So that number is there. So altogether, looking at just over 39,000 to put on that event. And then for bringing in revenues, we were just over 44,000. So revenues less expenses, we're up about $5,000. But again, we're not capturing all the staff cost. And then in-kind donations, we have about $3,800 in in-kind donations that were things like Rayleigh's gave us a $500 gift card so we could go buy sandwiches and all the stuff we need to like do volunteer snacks and food and all that stuff. We get water from Sam's Club, that's the volunteer hours, and some advertising that we get. I personally just have to say thank you to staff and the board and all the volunteers and all of our community groups come out. We could not do this event without all of those people pitching in. So I personally would say that this has been the smoothest chicken festival we have ever had, hands down. The last couple of years have been really smooth too, but this one, it just seemed like a breeze. So knock on wood, we'll continue to have that, but it turned out really great. Everybody was in good spirits and wonderful weather. So that's pretty much it, unless you guys have questions.
Yeah, Sabrina, attendance this year compared to the last 2 years, up again?
I would say we're right on par. I usually base that off of like kind of like what Rotary brings in, what our food trucks bring in. Our food trucks were down maybe like $2,000, $3,000. That is nothing really. And Rotary, I think, was up slightly. So I think we're pretty on par with everything.
When you say the food trucks were down, that was their revenues were down?
Yeah, collectively with all the food trucks. But $2,000, that's not very much of a difference. So
It was a good event. I was there. It was hard to find parking, but I didn't have the reserved parking.
What did we charge for the parking? Was it $10?
it was 12.
Yeah, it was 12 and then some additional fees for the app for Park Mobile.
I bought parking and I loved it. It was so nice and it was so easy. You just drove right up and you showed them the email and they scanned it and you got to go in. So that was really nice.
So when you say it was our 19th year, is that 19th year for the park district running it or 19 years in total?
That's a great question. I want to say it's 19 years in total.
In total, yeah, because I think it was like 5 years before we actually took it over.
Yeah. So in next year is the 20th year on the 20th, which is kind of fun.
Perfect. So what did you estimate the attendance was?
I think close to 10,000. And actually, last year, and I'm pretty solid on that number because last year, Mike And Nick and I sat in with a company that can kind of like take a geographical area and like cell phones and like all this weird tech stuff that's way beyond me. And they were able to take the day of Chicken Festival and take that geographic area, and that was right on par with what we've always thought based on all the numbers we get from, like ticket sales and the Sacramento Global Food Trucks and like all that stuff. So I think we're still right on par with about the 10,000.
Very good. Yeah, well, thank you, and thank the staff for doing a great job. Appreciate that. And I think this, if it's correct, this is the first year we actually broke even or made some money.
Last year we were up like, I think like 1,000.
Usually it was a lost leader, but that's great. That's a great accomplishment to get it panned for itself.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
The next thing is we have a report on the Sacramento Tennis Fund grant.
Yes. Good evening, directors. I'm David King. I'm one of the recreation supervisors. You may recall at the last meeting, we asked for your permission to apply for a grant to continue and expand our tennis programs. Well, I'm here to say that we were graciously accepted on behalf of the Tennis Fund, Junior Tennis Fund of Sacramento. And to speak on that, I have Carol Rose here representing them, who would like to speak a few words about them and present to us.
Hey.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. My name is Carol Rose. I'm the head of Junior Tennis Fund Sacramento, which has been in business for 10 years. And we've donated over $60,000 throughout the Sacramento area. We do Woodland, we do Davis, we have done a little bit further out, but that's our primary area. And what we're looking for are getting kids into tennis that maybe wouldn't have the ability, the financial ability to be involved. And what we do is give you a park and recreation district a grant, which helps them pay for their lessons. I was also telling Davey that we collect rackets from a lot of tennis players who buy good rackets. We take them and get them refurbished, broke them if they need it, put strings on them if they need it, and then we donate this to you. So hopefully it's something you can keep in your program and kids will have a pretty good racket to play with. So I'm going to be presenting a check to you for $1,800 to run a clinic probably next summer or some spring, summer period. And we also have, I haven't unfurled it, but there's a great big banner that we would like to see at your courts, probably Miller Park. That would be lovely. And we appreciate your support, and we'd like to see you kind of push us out into the community too, sort of symbiotic relationship. So one thing I'd like to ask is I brought a rather large check so we can get some pictures. And if we can do that maybe up front and somebody can be in charge, would that be you or? Okay, good. And I have one document that needs a signature, just an agreement. I don't know if you've seen this yet or not. I sent one to Davey. But it's just an agreement of what was in your grant.
Presume that would be me and not Mike.
It could be you. That would be fine. And there's check.
Thank you. Should we go out front here for the
Yeah,
picture?
you're good.
Okay, let me sign this first so it's official.
Great.
Did you review that?
What?
Did you review that document?
Right, yes it is.
So I read it?
You can if you like.
Okay, this agreement for funding is entered into between Junior Tennis Fund Sacramento and Fair Oaks Recreation Park District and is subject to the following terms and conditions. The grant period is December 1, 2024 to September 30th, 2025. The amount is $1,800. Funds will be used by August 31st for the purposes described in your application submitted October 2024. The Fair Oaks Recreation Park District agreed to submit a 6-month progress report no later than May 31st, 2025, and a final report no later than September 30th, 2025. The report should address expenditures and progress made towards program objectives, problems encountered in meeting program objectives, and action taken or proposed by grantee to overcome problems encountered. The district will provide proof of insurance for both the district and the coaches prior to awarding the grant, including insurance to cover child abuse and molestation. District agrees to maintain records of receipts and expenditures and make its books and records available in regard to this grant expenditure to the Junior Tennis Fund on request. If the grant specifics are not met within the time frame mentioned in number 1 above, the grantee will be prohibited from applying for another junior tennis fund grant for a period of 2 years and will be asked to return all or part of the grants to the tennis fund. The fund further requests that the Fair Oaks Rec and Park District representative attend at least one of our member events during the grant period. We may also request attendance by some of your new players. If you're willing, Junior Tennis Fund Sacramento would benefit a great deal from you sharing a story or two about how your program has made an impact on the children you have been able to serve as a result of the grant funds. The Tennis Fund Sacramento may request participation in the Big Day of Giving campaign for 2025. There will be further information in early 2025. Staff, sound good to you?
Are you okay with the reporting and the,
Well, that's,
participation?
David, that's a large responsibility for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're prepared for that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Officially prepared. Now, would you like me to sign this as chair? Okay, I shall do that. Let's do the picture first, and I'll do this after.
I would like to add too, we do have your insurance papers. Davey took care of that.
Oh, good.
We're good with that.
That was one of the, we cannot.
Yeah, that's
Probably
well.
best.
How many minutes?
Full body pictures there.
Miller Park, there are 8 votes.
Oh, so there's just one location, but you have 8. Yes.
Here.
Yeah. We used to have somebody for the grants. We good?
Yes.
To see that amount, oh, I like that number.
All right. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. All right, I think we got it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm glad we made the connection. Thanks, Dorothy.
I'll have to
Thank
send
you.
it to you here.
Okay, yeah,
Signed it?
yeah. And, is there a copy machine in here someplace? And
I don't think there is.
and if
Would you
not,
like-
I will just scan one to Davey tomorrow. How's that?
Okay.
Or,
I'll have
or we
somebody-
can do it the other way around. You can scan it to me.
I'll sign this and I'll have somebody bring it back for interest of time. I don't know.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Just give it to Davey, he'll get it back to me, a copy of it.
Oh, okay.
That's all we need.
Perfect. Okay.
Let's
Let's see. Okay, at this point, let me ask, we're at the audience public comment period, when any person can address the board on any subject within the jurisdiction of the Fair Recreation Park District. Each speaker is limited to a maximum of 3 minutes, and any matter requiring board action will be referred to staff or committee for a report and action at a subsequent meeting. First, I'd like to ask if there's anybody who wants to speak to something other than the disc golf issue.
I do have somebody on mine.
Okay, let's put them on first.
Looks like they have left.
Okay. If there's nobody else on a different subject, then I'm going to ask Sean Ventura, our park facilities manager or superintendent, to give his report on the disc golf situation.
Good evening, Board of Directors. I apologize for not being there in person. I've come down with a bit of a cold right now, so I'm trying to stay away from everybody. Should be pretty brief on this. The report itself is just a breakdown on the steps taken to hit the major mitigation measures that were outlined in our recently completed safety survey for Miller Park. And if you would hit the next slide. So these were some of the major items that were outlined in the safety survey that were problems at several of the holes throughout the course. Errant throws, which is essentially rather than throwing along a straight line, your shot goes off to the side and it enters into areas outside of the court. Blind spots within the course where throws are being sent where the thrower cannot see the destination or any potential hazards that might be hidden by foliage or landscape. Proximity to the pathways is essentially baskets being too close to where non-golfers are walking. Commingling usage was essentially the course and other facets of the park, such as the playground being sharing a space. I guess better than the playground, the prime example of this would be the creek. Kids love to play in the creek. The course crosses that creek, and it creates a lot of pain points where the two groups mix when they probably should stay separate, and a lack of visible signage to showcase what the rules are of the course, what the etiquette is at a disc golf course, and kind of who is the responsible party in a lot of different areas. Next slide, please. So errant throws, and yeah, you can hit past that. Thank you. I don't know why I put two screens on that one, but we'll just have to deal with that as we move along. So errant throw problem areas, we had it primarily on holes 1, 2, 5, 7, and 8. A lot of it was with other features being close to in line with a shot or very close to a tee pad. The mitigation measures recommended on that were essentially moving some tee pads, moving some baskets, and potentially shifting some other features like the barbecue pits at the covered barbecue area by the tennis courts. We put in a call to 811 because we didn't want to cut power to the park. The electrical out there is kind of spiderwebbed in a fairly random fashion, so we've run into that problem in the past. We dodged that bullet this time just by calling ahead. And I do have some updates to some of these slides because I wrote it last week and we continued working on these mitigation measures, so we made further progress than I had hoped we would. The hole 1 tee pad, we have poured a new tee pad, which is further to the east in the park. It puts another tree in the flight path of an errant throw. We don't really want to put trees right down in the middle of this cold weather, just because it wouldn't be really conducive to them rooting right away. Hole 2, the barbecues were removed. They are now moved. They're still right by the picnic area. They're adjacent. They're kind of at the end of the tables rather than broadside to the tables, but they're still very accessible from the covered barbecue area there and the concrete walk path as well. So no problems with access. It's just shifted 10 or so feet over. Hole 5 and hole 7, the problem with those is the chance for throws to go essentially beyond the course. On hole 5 in particular, it goes towards the driveway for the ADA parking over by the restrooms there. On hole 7, it's heading towards the playground. I have met with 3 separate fencing contractors to identify possibilities for either chain link fencing or wrought iron fencing, and I've also received quotes for some just sports netting, like outfield netting. So far, I've received 1 quote back, which if we were going for all of the boundary fencing that we see recommended in the safety mitigation survey, it's something like $55,000-$60,000 to put all that up, and it puts a lot of fencing up in the park. don't want to make any move or make any recommendations on something like that until I receive all of the quotes, and I can provide a full breakdown and a full report on something like that to the board, rather than just, well, I got one quote and not giving you all the information. Hole 8, tree,
Fencing, was that the netting or was that chain link?
that was for wrought iron.
It's
It's kind of the best looking, the sturdiest, and the highest end. The netting honestly is not super cheap either. It's the same stuff we use on the neighbor's fence line on hole 8, so kind of next to the pond there, and that's roughly 99 cents to $1.09 per square foot. And excuse me, sorry, a little congested today. That would still be rather expensive, only because we're looking at 500 feet of barriers on that, and that's not even counting poles and concrete and labor to get those installed. As far as hole 8, again, that was a couple of tree plantings that we're awaiting appropriate weather on over there. As of right now, I do have a quote in with the netting to provide additional netting on that fence line that I think would be beneficial in the meantime while we're waiting for trees to be planted and waiting for trees to grow in, because even if we get the trees in right now, it will likely take several years before they block any shots. And thank you, Ian. You can do next slide and then another one. Our blind spot problems were primarily hole 6 and hole 9 as outlined through the safety survey. The hole 6 is the blind spot is from the T-pad throwing. You run the risk of not seeing people coming further into the park over the hill. We have not yet moved the T-pad over closer to Earl Leggett fence. I'm working on a proposal to bring to Leonard Muse, who did our safety survey, to move the T-pad further up rather than towards the Earl Leggett fence, because I think it would kill the blind spot problems we have, while also not running into the issue of getting too close to Earl Leggett's fence and putting disc golfers next to school children, and it would eliminate the risk of errant shots potentially going over into Earl Leggett's property. It would also eliminate the need to increase the height of the fence in between our two properties, which should save us a little bit of money. I do have flags for baskets on order, which doesn't exactly help with the blind spots themselves, but it helps the disc golfer kind of see which direction they're throwing, so they're not throwing into potentially other problem areas. It kind of helps guide their throws. As far as hole 9, we are seeing similar things. We had a lot of sorry, brain just stopped there. Wax privets that were growing, that were creating blind spots there under Director Carhart's recommendation, where those were pulled out to open up sightlines for the area. It has improved the sightlines specifically for kids running from the creek up into the trees and back and forth there. Very open sightlines, which we think have helped mitigate risks where people would throw without knowing that there were children present. Again, still waiting for a couple of quotes on the fencing out there. And again, under Director Carhart's direction, we are attempting to maximize the creek space for non-golfers, which I haven't had a chance to discuss it with Leonard in person yet, but we're going to be attempting to move some of the baskets that are kind of close to the playground on the opposite side, on the playground side of the creek, further away, to then give more space at the creek for use by non-disc golfers. That basket has not been moved yet, so it is still a process that I am working on.
On the flags for the baskets, are those numbered or colored or anything?
We have number plates on top of the baskets already. These are essentially just like what you'd maybe see on the back of a motorcycle, kind of something that raises a flag up 2 feet, 3 feet, 4 feet above it with a bright orange flag so that you can kind of see where it is if it's blocked by the lay of the terrain or foliage or the like.
Like a pennant flag,
What's that?
like a pennant flag.
Exactly like that, yes.
Okay, thank you.
We could go to the next slide, please. So pathway proximity. The problems outlined primarily were holes 1, 2, 3, and 5. The baskets were noted as being just too close for Leonard's liking. He prefers at least 45 feet in between a basket and non-course areas. I will say that the baskets, the new pin placements for holes 1 and 3 have been finalized. I was out sick today, so I didn't get to see if the baskets themselves were moved. But we have completed the movement as per the recommendations in the safety survey. If they weren't moved today, then they'll be moved tomorrow to the new basket locations, which should greatly alleviate any chance of discs going past the baskets and onto the pathways. As far as hole 2, this was primarily a pathway that isn't really used over at the end of the tennis courts that dead ends at a vehicle access point at Sunset there. There was a bench that was right by some of the baskets that was really underutilized that has been removed right now. I'm identifying a new bench that can be surface mounted because this one was an in-ground mounted bench that we can put in a shady spot in the breezeway there, as the only people that were using it previously seemed to be, and it's all anecdotal from my observations at this point, seemed to be people waiting for kids in tennis programs or otherwise utilizing the tennis courts and waiting for their turn. As far as hole 5 is concerned, the barrier quotes are still incoming. I know I sound like a broken record on that one, but we are looking at chain link, wrought iron fence, and netting. We eliminated the raised basket that was there. That was perhaps encouraging to people that to throw a little bit harder, a little bit higher, and it would make them go outside of the course boundaries. That is no longer on that hole. It's been moved to places where throws that go beyond the basket aren't at risk of going into space utilized by other people. That I've spoken with some of our community members that we're working to get into a community partner program for this disc golf course, and express that no longer is a position that supports the raised basket, and they're receptive to it. So commingling usage. So we have instituted course closures out there for the hours as recommended by the mitigation and from feedback from the Leggett community there. Pardon me. Again, anecdotally, it seems that we've been seeing great success with the closures. My staff is going out in the morning and bagging the baskets for the initial closure, and we've been relying on our support from our disc golf community to pull those bags off late throughout the day for the other closure times. It seems to be working. I've encountered a couple of people who have been trying to stay a little bit later than the closures, and I've spoken to them about our concerns with the mixed use there, and they've been very receptive, and they've moved off the course immediately. Otherwise, I've seen a pretty drastic reduction in the amount of people breaking the closure times, and I think we'll only get better with that as we move forward. The closure times are posted at the main approaches at hole 1 on UDisc, which is a disc golf support software, and also to social media sites run by disc golf users who go to Miller Park. As far as law enforcement presence, that's still a work in progress. And this kind of brings me to another point which I'll kind of cover briefly here, but I'll provide more notes in my staff update. Fulton El Camino Police is currently in a bit of a state of flux due to their contract expiring. We do not have any FEC support from the police force there that is available during the daytime. It is a part-time police organization, and they go to the FEC positions when they're done with their jobs at other, like for example, Sac County Sheriffs. So thankfully, Chief Johnson over at FEC has graciously offered to extend our request to Sac County Sheriff. I have not heard back on that, and I will continue to work towards getting that law enforcement presence out in the park in the meantime. I unfortunately don't have any contacts in Sac County Sheriff, so I thought it would be better for Chief of Police over at Fulton El Camino Police to do the request for us. And of course, I'm actively out there, and my staff are out there spreading the word whenever we possibly can to disc golfers, just to get that closure identified to everybody who comes out. We will continue improving. Like I said, again, the quotes are still ongoing, and we're exploring planting options. So we're not just putting one type of tree in every single space, and we want it to be able to operate, that we want them to be able to grow in the type of turf and the type of watering we have out there. It'll be not very feasible to remove irrigation at that park to make place for low water use trees. That they have to be trees that can survive when we've got full turf rotors on in the height of summer for 30 minutes a night. And it's only one big station out there for each side of the park, so I can't really just turn off one section and allow better growing environments for all types of trees. So we're looking into what we can plant out there. I'm working with our arborist, and he's providing some good feedback on that as well. We will continue to improve and identify and improve sightline issues, and we'll work towards maximizing creek access to kids and families. We did, as requested, repair the fence, the neighbor's fence over at the back southwest corner of the park. That is done. That neighbor is very happy. And we got the new signage ordered and installed, which will bring us to our next slide, Ian, please. So that visible signage, this is what we have up there. The Watch for Park Users is posted at nearly every tee pad at holes 7 and 9. Since it is a shared tee pad, I only have one up there because it seemed kind of useless to put two up in the same spot. And then that private property sign is spaced from essentially the south end of the park all the way up to the end of our chain link fence, which is kind of halfway through the park, but it's not a section we've had reports of concerns of people hopping that fence. They're hopping the chain link fence, and it's a lot easier to attach chain link than to drill into a neighbor's wooden fence. So those are purchased, installed. They are out there in the parks, and this is essentially what I've just outlined in that last slide. The course closure signage is out there at, like I said, the first hole and at all major approaches to the course. So if you're walking on from any direction, you will see it. And that is it's pretty much it. Actually, I will say one other thing, because we were going to say this a little bit later, but it fits here. We are still continuing to work on that community partner for the disc golf course. The district has had a meeting with the Parkway Disc Golf Foundation. We are currently working through liability questions we have for our risk management, and we're getting that information, and we're gonna formulate a response, and we'll have another meeting with that partner group hopefully in the near future. As of this point, my staff has put in about 100 hours of labor into doing these course modifications. I've got a project set up in our work order management system, so all costs and all time should be monitored and easily reported to you in a future update, perhaps next month. And with that, thank you. If you have any questions, I am available.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sean, for all of the report and all the actions. Before we allow any public comments, I want the board to have an opportunity to ask Sean any questions or anything you have.
No, I think that was a very thorough report.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Sean.
Yeah, I agree.
So now I remind you that you are limited to 3 minutes in a piece, and we cannot take any specific action tonight because it's just a report. It's not an agenda item. So with that, if you'd like to speak, if you fill out your name and a slip of paper and give that to me, that would be great.
Okay, I did that.
We have them at the back table.
Yeah, I did that. Oh,
Okay.
you wanted to give them to you?
Yeah, I think all we. Oh, are you, yeah, I'll take that. And then you can,
someone else.
we'll get this figured out. You can speak from the podium there.
You want us to hold that while we're
Give 'em
doing?
Yeah, I'll take that.
Okay.
Okay, so first of all, and go up to the podium to speak. Chris Picard.
Good evening. Thanks for having us. My name is Chris Picard, husband, father of two. We moved here so our kids could go to Earl Leggett. Very excited about it. We live within walking distance of the park, the Miller Park. We pick them up, drop them off every day. Sometimes we walk, sometimes we ride bikes. To my surprise, the first time we did that, there were disc golfers there. The afternoon we picked them up, I realized that the holes are right by the walkway, which is away from the cars, a very reasonable place for the children to walk without holding hands because they're away from vehicles. You see discs and everything flying at them. So my official opinion is until the park can be safe for children, the disc golf course needs to be either shut down or removed while all these safety measures are taken and full transparency happens with the constituents and everybody that's here. Because generally, I mean, that's a school right next to a park. You're going to expect, what, 600 families, right? Isn't that about right? How many kids go there? Not sure. 600, a lot, yeah. So my official question is, when can we expect to see a fully safe disc golf course around the park, or a reasonable solution that prioritizes children over disc golfers? Yes, answer is yes.
No.
No. Okay.
We're taking your comments and we'll address those.
Oh, excellent. Okay, when will they be addressed?
I assume the staff is hearing this too. Sean is hearing this, and they'll take that into consideration.
Okay, and I'm new to the district.
And what I heard mostly from you was you'd like to see a complete shutdown until all the safety corrections are made. Is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah, I don't want any discs flying at my children or me when I'm walking them to the school that moved here for, or from the school that moved here for.
Have there been disc golfers there since we implemented the closure times before and after school?
I moved here, or my child started going to school there October 7th. So since then, yes,
Okay.
the interactions.
Okay, well, thank you for those comments.
Sure, is my time up?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, it is? What time?
Is that?
Well, do you want to say?
Is that more
You
time?
want to say?
Absolutely.
Then go ahead. You got 40 seconds.
40 seconds, excellent. Sorry, that's all right. The idea that we're going to put bags on hold and expect it to be upheld by the disc golfers themselves, as you all know, is a public entity. Without consequences, accountability doesn't happen. So maybe put parents in charge of that, or maybe remove the holes, because it's just a bolt on, right? Just a bolt on the hole, and you take it out during those times, and you have staff put them back. No,
It is. I mean, bad luck. But as you heard, we do have a community partner that I think would make for a great collaboration that if you'd like to on your own, you could reach out to them
yeah.
and ask them about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who is that committee partner?
It is the American River Disc Golf Association. They were here at the last board meeting. I think Lindsay might actually have their information.
We were.
Oh, you did
Yeah,
not
you
talk to
did
them? I
that
thought you
first.
talked to them.
No, we were left. We had, the meeting was adjourned and it was over.
Oh, okay. I saw some folks from Leggett talking to them after the meeting last time, so I apologize. That was a mistake. But no, you could reach out to staff and they could put you in contact with that group if that's something you are interested in collaborating with them.
Yeah.
You.
I just wanted to be safe for my kids. That's my main priority.
Yeah.
If there's a way to do that, that's reasonable, that doesn't cost tens of thousands of dollars. It's not like that was really expensive. I'm totally good.
And these modifications that Sean said are an attempt to deal with those safety improvements with the park being here. And I think after they're done, we're going to all want to evaluate the effectiveness and see how that's done. There might be a need for further modifications, but this is our approach right now to try to deal with that.
Okay, perfect. I'm sorry I went over my 40 seconds.
No problem.
Thank you.
Next one is that Janos or Sunas?
Jane.
James? Jane, okay. Oh, I see. Okay, sorry. Kind of, my reading is poor.
Excellent handwriting. My name is James Top-Blue. Hello. I've been in the community years in Sacramento for 20. I have these two wonderful children over here. I'm taking the opportunity to engage with local politics and kind of learn the system. Obviously, there's, do we hand in the form now? Do we sign there? If so, I'm learning how that works. One thing that I don't, well, actually, one more thing is the signs. I think the signs are great. I appreciate that. Thank you. The part that I'm confused now is when the actions that are being taken. I wasn't aware we had a vote or decisions were made from our last meeting. We kind of walked away with all the presentation, all this information, that 40 or 80 page book to go through on the recommendations. So that's all good information, but when that decision was made by the board, presumably how much money is being budgeted for this project so that disc golfers can enjoy the park. I don't know any of that. If that's a decision that's been made or allocated budgets to, then I would like to know whose name is on it, how much money.
Well, I think our direction was made at the last board meeting when we were discussing all of this and reviewing the consultant's report as to where the problems areas were. And subsequently, I think a couple of us have met with staff out on the field to see how they were going to address those, which the outcome is in Sean's report here.
Right,
and that's ongoing.
Very detailed report, and like you said, maybe more things need to be done. That's totally reasonable. But as we understood from the issues that have happened, we looked back at the past and said, oh, maybe we should have done this in the first place. Here we are making action again without, some people are making decisions and hopefully considerations, but I'm not making any decisions. They're being made for the community. So if you guys have made those decisions, at least that would be nice to know that you all have made that decision for us. If that's you, if the decision was on the agenda item to approve any budget necessary to make the park happen for disc golfers, then I assume that would be the thing that was decided on.
Well, we heard a lot of issues raised at the last board meeting, and I think we gave a kind of general direction to staff that we wanted these things addressed and we wanted a solution to the problem. There were a variety of options available to staff, and I think pretty much the staff in their professional capability looked at what they could do immediately to address, triage the worst things and try to deal with all the safety issues there. And like I said, hopefully they've addressed the conflicts. If there's continue to be, what problems, I'm sure those will be addressed in the future. But,
sure.
We directed staff, I think, to take action as professionals, and I think that's what they've done. So,
but that helps. The earlier resolution that Chris mentioned also was to take them out. That would be a free and instant solution, and remedies could be made to further improve the park, but was that considered?
I don't think that was brought up at the last meeting, Mr. Remove them completely. It was directed to, it was directed to maybe put it in a different park. And I know that we did talk about that as one of the ideas. I did not hear that tonight from the staff report, but that was one of our directions that we gave to them last time, was to explore moving it from Miller Park and look at other parks. But the other directions that we provided were to talk to the disc golfers, to implement immediate closure times, to improve signage, to make sure that all incidents and comments were forwarded to the board. As far as I can tell, those things have been done. I know there have been talk about barriers and how much barriers would cost. We have not discussed that as a group and have not approved funds being spent on those sort of remedies. So to that, I know you would ask that kind of had that happened. That has not happened.
What's
So-
are being spent? Hours.
I believe right now it's just staff time and staff effort, so there hasn't been a particular allocation to this. They're doing it with their own budgeted time.
Yeah, I don't know, it just seems to me, I'm trying to understand the process, that before taking action, you truly vet the options before you, what's the allocation of the park, what's the allocation of the money, then take action, but it seems like I walked by the park and, oh, construction's happening, decisions have been made.
That had nothing to do with.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thanks for those comments. And next we have, Lindsay.
Hi, you guys all heard me before. So I was under the impression last time that you guys were gonna do information collecting before we made, changes. So I actually did write a counter proposal. You guys are interested in it, but I can read it to you or I can give it to you in my 3 minutes. But the other thing I'd like to know is it was an agendized item. You guys were given 3 options last time to keep, move, or to the park. You did not vote on it. You gave directives. You guys met without the public. There was no posted notice to say that you, Director Mounts and Director Carhart, were meeting with public staff at the public park. I was not given an opportunity to attend the meeting to make directives about the park that I've been a part of. Sean has been meeting with the Leonard repeatedly. I have never once been reached out to. Why am I not being reached out to? I'm upset. Why? I know that holes 1, 3, 5, and 7, you could just take the baskets out. There's going to be a 9-hole course. Leave the tees, leave the holes in, and then just have 18-hole disc golf course tournaments. Why can you not make a 9-hole, 4-tee, 9-basket course for during the week? And then when you rent out the park with your disc golf tournaments, put the baskets back in. Why can't we do that? I don't understand why no one is asking the parents what we need. You're moving the baskets onto the grass field. I want the grass field for my kids to play because they cannot play there right now. You want to build a fence? Now I can't go in the woods. That's what we wanted. Why do you trying to further limit where my kids can access the park? You cut down all these trees to make it visible. Now the kids don't have trees to play in. I understand you're trying to make the course safer. That I'm not against disc golf, but I feel like what you're doing is prioritizing. There's an obvious bias on this board towards disc golf right now. Obvious. And I think you guys have to really think about it because right now you haven't spent 1 minute at the public outreach meeting. Not one person who came to that public outreach meeting was pro the disc golf course. Everyone was opposed to it. Why is it, again, they spent the whole meeting telling us all about the mitigation measures. Not one question. But how can we make this better? How can we make this better? Can you guys ask us this? And can you actually reach out to us because no one is? And I'm frustrated. And I'm not going away. I will be here every month. You're going to hear a public comment every month. I'm going to continue having parents make complaints that Sean is not recording because I know that there have been at least 3 or 4 complaints in the last month. At least 6, the bags are not on the disc golf course tees. They have not been for weeks. People are golfing there. We know that as soon as I leave here and I'm not putting pressure on them, they're going to start golfing again. And it's just going to happen because that's the nature of humanity. We know it. It's like, why are we trying to just pretend that human nature is different than it is? My first comment to us when we first called was, we cannot police the golf course. We cannot police it. And now their answer to us is police the golf course. We know it's not going to work. That was their statement to us initially. So thank you, but I'm frustrated. And I'm frustrated with the board right now. I understand you got reelected. Congratulations. But now it feels like you guys are just sweeping us aside.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Are there any other people who wish to speak to this particular item? Okay.
I do have a couple of mine.
Oh, okay.
Comments. This was from Wendy. It says, I am confused why this moved forward. Last month, the vote was put on hold for other info. The park is being ruined, taking out trees, etc. Golfers have still been there. What happened to the other info and vote? Next person, John. It appears that there is no interest in moving the course to a safer location, and again, the interests of disc golfers are being placed ahead of those that use the park in a non-golf capacity.
The notion that tens of thousands of dollars are being spent on quote unquote mitigation measures is completely insane. I also find it very disturbing that after the last board meeting, there was no clear plan of action or path forward, yet decisions have been made without local community input. And then the last one from Pamela. I am concerned that the safety of our children and the limited access to green spaces are not being adequately considered in this discussion. It appears the decision-making process is disproportionately favoring the interests of disc golfers over the broader community's needs. While I value recreation for all, I strongly believe that until all appropriate mitigation measures are implemented or voted on, a temporary closure of the disc golf course is the most responsible action to ensure the safety and well-being of our children and the community at large. I urge the board to prioritize safety and access to green spaces for children in its decisions. Thank you.
Any others? Okay. Well, as you can appreciate, we've got various interests balanced, and we try our best to do that. And staff is trying to do this in an incremental way. And we'll see if that makes any improvements. If it doesn't, then we will continue to work on the problem. Okay, is there anyone else that wants to speak to any other non-agenda item tonight? Okay, in that case, we'll move on to the consent calendar. Any questions from the board on the consent calendar?
Move to approve.
Second.
And moved and approved to, moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. This one, it's easier to read. Okay, under old business, 7.1 is a discussion and possible action on approval of a public art policy.
Evening Board of Directors, Jen Schuler, Arts and Entertainment Manager. I'm here today to discuss the public art policy. This is for consideration and possible approval and then subsequential review by our legal counsel. This policy is designed to oversee the selection, installation, maintenance, and the ascension of public art across Fair Oaks in our public areas, parks. It emphasizes a commitment to an open, transparent selection process that includes community input, a diverse selection panel. Our aim is to ensure that public art is in our parks and our facilities that genuinely reflects the values of our community. So I'm a bit old, right? Our policy committee met October, right?
Quite a while ago.
Quite a while ago. But just some background on where this came from. I know when we were doing our construction, they took down the mural, right? That was on the building. I know there was some discussion on how we recognize that, how we might bring it back. So that was one piece of what this policy could cover. The second was we looked around at all the new construction, and there's some obvious utility boxes that are in some line of sight that are not the most appealing things to look at. So we want to launch a campaign to wrap those. So an artist come and, put together a proposal to what that would look like. So that we needed something to kind of back up how that process would go about. So that's sort of the background on why we created this. Obviously, this could, expand into some other larger art pieces that we could put in parks or installations or things like that. But right now, those were kind of the two that hopefully this policy would cover. So, discussion or?
Most state federal projects, there's a mandatory percentage to be done to public art. We do not have such a thing.
No.
So this is kind of our attempt.
Our attempt to
address
have,
that.
yeah.
And since we are trying to build a community center as, a place for all types of arts, visual, performing, etc. That's why we're doing this.
Yes.
I was hoping that we would be doing, more visual arts on the walls, on the pavements, maybe some sculptural elements. So when we do open that, I'm hoping that we have something to show either on, probably not on day one.
No, I think this just gives us the groundwork to then eventually build to something like that. Obviously, we've got some things that need to get done over there before we do a lot of this, but I think there's one piece that we can do that the utility box wraps are pretty easy for us to kind of push through right away, but we do need this kind of groundwork in order to move forward. And it'll help if it's a small enough project, we can build that sort of panel, we can get the community involved too, so then when we do a larger installation like that, or something on pavements or visual, that we have that kind of groundwork.
This just gets it rolling with the process. So.
There were a couple things in here that I was wondering, I was curious about who was on the subcommittee for this that I thought was a little much. And I wanted to know feedback from everybody that was involved in that. For the de-ascension review committee, the public notice of all that, I mean, that is a lot. It's gonna have to come back to us for art that we have in our parks.
Mhm.
And it seems like overly unnecessarily regulated outside.
Yeah, I think there's, and that we had a lot of discussion around that as far as what would essentially be like artist owned that would have to go through that process. So say someone like loans us a piece of art that we put up, we kind of need to maintain it. Maybe eventually it would be taken down, or there's like a term on it or something that we then have to vote to bring it down, or it gets damaged and we need to take it down. But there's like the wraps for the utility, we would own that art on our property, we could take it down, we could fix it any way we need to, we wouldn't have to go through that same process. But I think it's maybe not the clearest. We did kind of go back and forth in that, and then had to make some edits towards the end on what that would look like and how to define those two different options.
But why create this review committee and why create this public notice if we're wanting to get rid of a piece of art? And
I think some of that background, and I know I wasn't here when we took down the mural, but I think the community felt a lot of ownership about that, right? It was a big piece, and people years living here would walk by that. I wanted to make sure that we kind of included everyone so that there wasn't any kind of feedback or lash out taking down.
I would agree with Jen. I mean, when we took Hugh's piece down, it was very controversial because it belonged to him. It was not ours.
well, but that's another issue is what do we have addressed in here as far as who owns what? If we are now putting it in our park, we don't have it clearly that we own it.
Well, that would be in the contract with the artist. It wouldn't necessarily be written here. I think the difference is defining what those two different things are, but then in that contract, say we got another, if you wanted to do another piece or another artist wanted to do a piece, we could either have them sign over rights to us or they would keep the rights and we would clearly define that.
How are we deciding though in that situation what it ends up being? Who's making the decision that yes, we will take this, but no, we're not going to own it?
I mean, some of that could be from the panel that we put together that has that feedback, or you guys as well. That's also why we're taking this to our legal counsel to make sure that we've covered all of our bases.
That's where I personally don't feel like I like the idea of this panel that's making that decision. I think that should be the decision.
Yeah, if I may chime in a little bit on that. If we were to get into a place where we're talking about removal of that piece of art or the ownership of that art and the rights of that art, it is in the initial contract with the artist. And that initial contract is going to you for review and approval. So it is going to happen within your approval and your final vote. Even if it is a community group recommending it, it still has to go to you. So they can't make the community group cannot make the final decision. It has to be done by our elected officials.
So you, in putting this together, you referred to a number of other art policies from other agencies and all,
yeah,
right? And this is kind of the normal thing to address, you know, how you screen what art, you know, how you get the community and the art community input into what is art. It's our own, we have a responsibility as to where we want to put art, where we have a spot for various types of art. The really tricky thing has always been the maintenance and the removal of art. I used to be the statewide coordinator for art in the transportation system. And man, when you have murals on walls and the artist is gone and they're getting graffitied and you have to deal with the laws related to artists' rights to their works. That's why it needs to be addressed up front with with a contract, with an agreement as to who will maintain it if it becomes a problem, and if the artist disappears, what rights we have to do that ourselves. So when we reviewed this, I think you covered those things. It does seem overwhelming, but
I don't think it's about it being overwhelming. I think there's just certain unnecessary oversight in that. I personally think any art that we are going to take in or have, we as a district should own that art. So we are not in the situation that we found ourselves in.
and I guess that's possible if we
Purchase that art?
yeah.
I mean, that's
Well-
one consideration. We can look back at this whole, I know this was for the larger discussion. I think the committee meeting, we got to a point where we wanted to.
I don't think we need to purchase it. I think it's just an agreement that we come together. If they want to place that in the public, in our property, we own it, period.
Yeah, and that has to be addressed.
Of course. Yeah.
I oversaw all
If you don't
the
want it, then-
art in the light rail stations, and that's stuff that was paid for by the agency, but was done by the artist. And the decision as to what constituted art was not made by the agency, it was made by the art, the art commission or whatever, so that it was not intrusive on, the artist's creativity. But we still have technical control over it. It can't be a piece of art that's unsafe or is.
I don't have an issue again with a committee helping select art and bringing that to us. It's more the issue if we want to decide to get rid of it for whatever the reason may be, we need to move it, we're doing change this or that it's not having to go to this bureaucratic other body to then just at the end of the day come back to us to make the decision.
It
That's what I-
does it
Yeah,
have to?
but in doing that, I feel like that we're at least getting community feedback on whether we should, and what the community feels is, there's a big uproar over, no, we don't want to move this to over here. At least we're hearing that from them. I mean, I understand it's one more step in the process, but I would assume that the people that would be in this group would be people that live in Fair Oaks and would, have, at least, I don't know, I see it as another way for us to get feedback.
So tell me, without going into all the details on here, if it becomes necessary to remove a piece of art, can you describe the sequence of events and who would be making that decision?
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, the difference, and if they have already signed it over, or if it's artist owned, I think that's what we're specifically talking about, that it would then go to that review committee. They would talk about it, they would recommend then something to the board and bring that forward, and then you guys would make the final decision, and then we would move forward.
And who is that review committee then?
It would be a collection, I would think, of community members. We've talked about staff being on there. We talked about a board member being on there. Our foundation could, other foundations could be involved as well. I'd like to find some professionals in the, in Fair Oaks as well that might have some, I don't know anyone yet, but that's kind of the start. We'll move from there to build that committee up.
And then the committee makes a recommendation to the board and the board makes the final decision.
Which again, we could, Director Manning, I mean, people could still come to the board meeting, which is what they would do anyway, and provide their feedback.
Yeah.
And if anything, I like the idea of the overall community versus, because then I feel like I could hear from community members saying, well, that's an elitist little group of artists or this and that. They don't represent the full community. And so to me, I would much rather hear from the full community or a bigger sample, if that makes sense.
Does this committee just sort of sit idle until something comes up that we need to remove and they're like just on reserve and we pull on? I mean, do they meet regularly? I mean, why are they a committee?
Well, no, they're on the front end too. They're making recommendations for what should go on our walls. And we either accept those recommendations or we don't.
Okay.
Okay.
So it is sort of
On
a
the other
consistent
hand, on the back
committee.
end, if someone wants to remove it, then they would weigh in. And once again, we make the decision as to whether or not it should be removed.
So it would be kind of a standing partner then that we'd form this committee early on and I guess we could do it any time. It's not tied just to the village project.
No, I would say once this is approved and we've had it reviewed and we could start moving on building that panel out.
So would that panel maybe be appointed for 2 years or something like that, representing different aspects of the community? And then
Yeah, we can. I didn't write
Kinda like
anything
the
specific
oversight.
about that panel, but yes.
kind of like committee, okay,
Yeah, if I could, this committee, which we don't have any approval yet from the board on, but we would probably be bringing this to you, as we had brought the bond oversight committee to you, under that same type of format, where it is appointed by the board with some terms and a schedule of meetings, whether it be quarterly, whether it be quarterly as needed, whatever the case may be, and what the makeup of that board is. And that would all be, again, approved by you all once we start that process. So it is, and what other duties they may have? Is it art, or is it potential for other elements of responsibility? Those will all depend on how we go forward with it, but for sure the art, but would it be any other pieces? So
Just clarifying though, if we do approve this recommendation of this specific language in the policy from Policy Review Committee, Public Art, that would though now kind of channel or like it would now make it that we would have to have this this committee, correct?
We approve the committee, we have the committee.
Yeah.
Well, if we approve, I mean, the policy, right? This
Yeah.
is approving a policy. Within the policy, it's saying that it's going to be a committee.
Yeah, that's another filter, is having the committee.
envision the front end here at some point when we want to entertain proposals for art, and I'm assuming initially it'll probably be in the village project, that you'll bring to us a recommendation for the membership of that committee and whatever the bylaws or the rules of that committee, and candidates for it, and then we would establish that.
yeah, just as we had done with the bond oversight committee.
Okay. Any more questions from the board?
I would move to approve the act on approval of the public art policy as written, and we can always amend it sometime in the future if it seems to be not working.
And like I said, we'll go to legal counsel for review too, so in case there's languaging that conflicts as well.
That's part of the motion, right? Approve this and go to the attorney.
No, we have to go to the attorney.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
That was the recommended. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I didn't hear any no's. Any no's?
No.
Is that a no?
No.
No. And I don't hear any abstentions. So 4 ayes, 1 no. Okay. Next item is 7.2, discussion and possible action on approval of the donation and donor recognition and gift policy.
Again. Jeweler, Arts and Entertainment Manager, let's talk more about policy, yay.
Been busy.
I know, sorry about that. So yeah, we're here again to discuss another policy. This one is the donation, donor recognition, and gift policy. This is also for approval and review by our legal counsel. So this policy was inspired by discussions on how the district plans to recognize donors as well as to utilize donor funds. So on October 7th, the Policy Review Committee recommended expanding what I had originally brought. So this is the expansion of that policy to encompass a broader range, of recognition methods, moving beyond what we had originally when discussing concepts of a donor recognition wall, our chair dedication campaign, which is already running, really to kind of, to use more versatile recognition strategies.
This approach ensures that we tailor recognition to match the preferences of our donors, making every contributor, whether through monetary gifts or services, feel valued. Our proposed methods of recognition right now include some digital and print acknowledgements, special events, what could be a donor wall, our chair dedication campaign, as well as the chair sponsorship in the black box. So this policy right now includes sections on what those recognition elements could be: endowments, planned giving, scholarships, sponsorships, naming rights, as well as donor advised funds. Really wanted to make sure that this policy was centered around transparency, ensuring that all contributions are acknowledged fairly and without preferential treatment. It aims to keep both the donors and the public well informed, upholding integrity of our district's mission. So this one's pretty dense as well. I apologize for that. But right now, I think this one, we tried to, I think, fill it with too many things and needed to simplify it. I know that we, as the policy committee, we did talk a lot about the donor recognition wall and what that could look like. Eventually, we'll bring you some more parameters on that, but I think we needed to have kind of this set in place before we moved into what that would look like. So,
again, this was based on other models from other agencies
yes.
and other things. And it's broad. I mean, it really covers everything from the scholarships to, you know, we used to have a catalog of things that, I don't know if it still exists, but we had a catalog of things people could donate for, a bench or this or that. This is comprehensive and addresses any gifts or any sponsorships or any donations.
I tried to make it really expansive.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any noes? Any abstentions? Okay, it sounds unanimous to me. Okay, well, thank you. Now the real work begins. Okay, so on to new business. We have the monthly Fair Oaks Youth Advisory Board report, and you've been patiently waiting through all this to give your report.
Let me go up front.
Good evening, Matthew Carroll, Chair of FOIA. Last week was pretty brief. We went over the Fair Oaks tree lighting event, which is in December. We're going to be accepting cash for donations to help fund the hygiene bags that we're also going to be making at the next meeting. The Snowman Scavenger Hunt is also next meeting, and we are currently planning that right now. And we also got in contact with the Grange for future volunteering.
Great. What work will you be doing at the Grange?
So on the second Sunday, we're gonna be making breakfast and handing it out.
Oh, good, good. Very good.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for being patient. We you get to hear a little more of the workings of a local district. Okay. At this point, I'll entertain a motion to go into the foundation board meeting.
Approved.
Second. That's to convene the Fair Oaks Recreation and Foundation meeting without adjourning the Board of Directors meeting. That's your motion and approved. All in favor? Aye. Okay. Two items. One is approval of the minutes from the last board meeting. That's 9.2.1. And the other is accept and file the foundation financial report. Do we need a motion on that?
Just on
The minutes. I have a motion to approve the minutes of May 15th.
Second.
That's your motion. I didn't make the motion.
Oh, I'll make the motion to approve the foundation minutes.
I'll make a second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now we need a motion to adjourn the foundation meeting and reconvene the park.
I'll make the motion that we adjourn the foundation meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. At this point, anybody on the board have any items they want to report?
Not from this end.
Linda?
This is just a follow-up to Sean's staff report. I would like to hear at the next board meeting of what research was done in terms of looking at other parks for disc golf. That was part, I did not hear that as part of your staff report. So if we could talk about that next month, I would appreciate it.
Noted.
That's it.
Okay. Well, I don't have anything either. We should have, oh, I did want to mention to you, Sean, if you need any of my support as landscape architect on your tree selections, I'm willing to help your arborist and do it.
Thank you, Director.
Okay, very good. Staff, Mike, you have report. How are you doing? How's the
Yeah, I'll let everybody else kind of start jumping in, and we'll start off with since he's already on there, Sean.
Good evening again, Board of Directors. Sean Ventura, Parks and Facilities Manager. I just wanted to take a moment about the Fulton El Camino Police. I attended a meeting on the 12th of this month. It was a special meeting of the Board of Directors for Fulton El Camino Police, specifically to talk about their police services there and the issues they have. As I noted previously, they are in a state of flux right now. Their contract with Sac County Sheriff is either expired or very soon to be expired. And this is for data processing and police technology services. There are concerns within Fulton El Camino District, specifically on the Board of Directors as well, with the operations, the ongoing daily operations and liability of the police services over there. I will report that no decision was reached at the special meeting of the Board of Directors there, but it did include alternatives to its current operational plan, up to and including disbanding the police force there. That report was public, and if you would like, it can be provided to the Board of Directors for your personal review. Of course, any changes to our contract with Fulton El Camino Police would have to come before you for approval, whether that is changes to costs if they have to begin charging more or they gain more staff, or if it's just a complete cancellation. I don't think we'll have much opportunity to object to that. But we are experiencing some challenges with that relationship and that service, just because they are in that state of flux now, and I wanted to just put that on your radar so that you are aware of the whole picture. I believe no matter what they decide over at FEC, the big changes are going to be coming for that service in the near future.
So two questions, Sean. Who on our staff monitors what they're doing, and has their service stayed the same, or are we losing service for our money as it stands right now? Are they providing the service we're contracted for?
As you see in the monthly reports, we do still get some service, mostly in the form of traffic violations and lack of displaying 2 license plates or lack of registration. They do respond to calls when they're able. I am the one who manages our relationship with that contract. I have seen, it seems that we are receiving less of a response just because of changes in staffing levels over there, at least response to my direct communication with them. It seems new to me also that we are not able to receive services during the day, which I have not been told before. So in my perspective, my personal opinion, that it seems like we're getting a bit of a reduction right now. But in times of change like this, I think things are still up in the air, and we got to kind of wait to see where they fall down.
Okay. Years ago, there was a private service, JWA. They made a lot of enemies in town by ticketing people in the village. But before we hired Fulton El Camino Police, did we look at any other options, other security forces, and would they be effective in dealing with the issues we have, which used to be primarily alcohol and drugs in the park, or camping in the park, or dogs off leash. You know, it didn't used to be traffic violations that worried us.
Yeah, and I can't say who was examined during the initial selection because at that time in my career with the district, I was cleaning toilets at night, so I didn't have much say, and I didn't read any potential contracts at that time. I know that our private security is not able to offer citations in any way. And one of the options presented to Fulton El Camino Park District was potentially contracting with the county's park ranger system, which would have enforcement capabilities. So that's something that I'm sure they're looking at over there, and we'll have to ascertain whether we want to go that route in the future when and if it becomes a reality. I'm pretty sure private security right now won't have any enforcement capabilities, so we'd have to look at something more beefy than that.
Sean, I mean, just some insider, I think Fulton El Camino is not going to be solvent for very much longer. And we need to start looking for different options. And I don't know what those options are, but the citations are dramatically down throughout the park district. I mean,
and if I may, in terms of looking at other options, there are 5, maybe 6 different park districts that are utilizing this service. Collectively in numbers, we're all going to be in the same place. And so trying to work all of us together into some kind of solution is probably financially the best move we can do.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay, well, thank you on that.
Thank you all. Have a great night.
Thanks, Sean.
And Nick, do you have anything?
Yeah. Good evening, Board of Directors. Nick Davis, and Recreation Manager. I just want to start out by echoing Sabrina's comments on Chicken Festival. That was a fantastic festival for the community, led by Sabrina and I know all of staff. So just tremendous job too. Just I'll say that. Yeah, in front of you, you have our recently released holiday guide that is a collaboration with the Chamber of Commerce. Sabrina is the one that designed all that. There's a lot of good activities and fun things to do for the holidays in there. So if you get a chance to check it out, and hopefully partake in some of those activities we have going on. And one of those activities is the tree lighting coming up on Thursday, December 5th. 4:30 to 7:30. Hope you all can be there as Chair Carhart counts us down to tree lighting for us that we 7 p.m. So that'll be a lot of fun. And then
Nick, what's the distribution on this? Is this online? This whole thing?
It is online. Yes, it's primarily online. We do have some that are printed in the office. If anyone is interested,
it's primarily online.
That is correct. Yes. And then lastly, also you have in front of you is our invite to the staff holiday party. So I know we've heard from a few of you, but we'd love to have you there if you're available. And that is on the 6th. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, Nick. Jen Schuler, did you have anything?
No, I don't.
Okay, Jen Larkin
No, I don't.
and Ian.
No.
All right. I've got a couple of things, and I wanted to clear up something. You may have received an email from Mr. Maloney. In that email, he alluded to us possibly charging for concerts in the park, and that's a misstatement on his part. There's never been any discussion on us charging for concerts in the park. If that were to ever happen, it would obviously be something that you're aware of and that we've had dialogue about. But at this point in time, we have not had any discussions over concerts in the park. We will be having concerts in the park this coming summer, and we expect to continue to have concerts in the park as long as possible. So anyway, I just wanted to clear that up and make certain that you all knew that there's been no dialogue about charging for concerts in the park. In your consent agenda, there was a item on the construction schedule. I wanted to be clear that you saw this. that we are now scheduled for an opening of April 8th. That is an estimated date, and it can move up or back. It can get maybe March. It could be maybe a little later in April. It all depends. But right now, under the critical path that we're working with, it looks like April 8th. We did have some road paving that we were hoping to get done. I did send you an email about that when we basically stopped and said, no, we will not be paving. And it obviously was a good move as you look outside right now. So we are not paving. That means there will be no paving until spring. We'll not be able to get this off and going until springtime. So I am disappointed, and but this is the hand that we're dealt with the weather and the structuring of the road that we were working with.
That actually is a bit of a cost savings because we're going to do it in 2 phases, do some now and some in the spring.
Yeah, great point. If we had paved, let's just say we had paved Fair Oaks Boulevard in California here still this fall, it would not have sped the opening up anymore. It just would have cost us more money.
Yeah.
But it was something that we wanted to try and get done because we believe that it's time to pave, but we just couldn't get it in.
Yeah. Question about the April 8th opening. What does that mean in terms of rentals and usage of the various facilities? Does that mean we can start renting at that point?
Again, that's an estimated date. I'm reluctant to say, hey, let's start booking and scheduling and doing all these other things because if this is an estimated date, something goes wrong still, we are then tripling our workload. And let's just say it's a wedding. Someone wants a wedding in May in there, and then we go back to them and say, hey, no, you can't do your wedding in May. Obviously, that's a bad move. So we want to be certain and that we know when our opening is before we aggressively go after bookings.
When that date is finally firm, that means we can start letting people use those facilities, rent the facilities, and use them.
Correct. And as you know, Director Carhart, the Historic Society has, I believe, it's September for their celebration. I think it's September, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that is our first booked group right now for September, but it is a community partner group, and obviously very important to the community that exists in the park. So, but yes, I'm betting my last dollar that September we're going to be fine.
There's a variety of dates. For example, the contractor's still on the hook until July or something.
Yeah, and a lot of that is for basically our warranty period, or if we find something that's not quite right, as we continue to use the facility. So we have a time to go back to them and say, hey, no, that light switch is not in the right place, or it's not wired right to the exact fixtures, or whatever the case may be. So,
very helpful.
Yeah, and then it also covers us the grow-in period for the landscaping.
Even though you don't know the date, when will community partners start to work on contracts?
We're working with some of them right now, the Theater Association one, and we will be reaching out to Rotary here real soon to begin talking or dialoguing about if they want to come back under the pricing structure and the storage. We will be doing a site walk with them once it dries out, so we can talk about some of their needs if they do decide to come back. And then I also, I want to reiterate what Nick said about Chicken Festival, and all of the staff, and Sabrina specifically, a great event, and it continues to be one of the highlights of the area, not just the park district, but the area for a quality event. And it is well known that it is a quality event, and that is on Sabrina as well as all of the staff that's involved. Everybody puts their heart and soul into it, and I really wanted to thank them for that. Also want to we've got great staff, and I want to just thank Davey for his work with that tennis grant. Sean is working today remotely sick. I am working remotely because I have mobility issues right now. And I also want to even thank Jen. Look at those art policies. We are building a program from hopefully the ground up that will have a lot of the elements that we're missing in other places in place, including some of those policies and things like that. So staff is working their tail off, and I really appreciate what they've done to get us to these points in time. That's all I have.
Sabrina, I hope that you get the word out to all the staff that isn't here tonight, how much we appreciate all the hard work, not only the chicken festival, but they do all the time for us. So
I definitely will.
please convey that thought to staff.
Thank you, I will.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion to go into closed session.
But you don't have that.
Really good.
Yeah, you can, or I'll turn this back, but actually.
And the only thing left is the adjournment.
Yeah, we have that.
Well, we have to say, the
Yeah,
thing.
I mean, after that, nothing else on the agenda.
Oh, you're back, Mike. There you are.
There we go. Yeah, I got it going again. Yeah, there we are.
I don't know how to do it. You
I thought this was gonna be a 30-minute meeting.
And if you
Okay,
did,
not with disc golf.
Mike, I sent you
very
a thing.
I saw that. Yeah.
I was planning.
Yeah.
I feel like that should have been something brought up. I should have brought that up in my comment that I did want to keep the show going. I didn't want these people to say anything, but
So
I'd love to get a response email wise or something like that.
Yeah, are we going back on Facebook or back online there?
Momentarily.
I would have to restart it. I'm not sure if you want to.
Do we need to?
Well, we have to go back to.
You don't have to go back to it.
We don't have to go back to Facebook.
That's true.
Just assume.
Yeah, yeah.
We're up.
Sorry, do you want me to restart the Facebook Zoom? No.
Do we stay? Motion?
Just. We're good.
So I'll just state the motion now. We're up?
Yeah. Mike, can you hear us?
The board has voted to approve the contract, the existing contract amended with a 5% increase. And it's remains at December 2025 termination date. I think that's the whole thing.
You do actually have to vote, so you have to do a roll call vote.
Oh,
Do we?
Yeah.
Did you vote in closed session? Yeah.
Yes.
They voted in closed session. They
Oh, they did? Okay, I thought they had a vote open, but okay.
Yeah. We did that closed session, so I guess we're good now.
So this is the reportable.
This is the report.
That is-
This is the report on.
Okay.
Okay.